In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the information that's on pages Access 4 and Access 5, in which we're going to explore a database. Now, you can start Access in many different ways. Now, if you double-click an existing Access database icon or shortcut, that specific database will open directly within Access. This is the fastest way to open an existing Access database. Now, if you start Access on its own, however, you will see a window that requires you to make a choice between opening a database and creating a new database. So what we're going to do is we're going to move away from the book for just a moment and show you how to download your Access database from course sites. So if we would go from our home page to the content section of the Computer and Technology Applications class, and then you would go into the Access A folder. Now, this assignment is going to be called the walkthrough. And so what we need to do is we need to download this attached file. Now, one way that you could do it, you could click on this, but when you click on it, it's going to download into and save into your downloads folder. However, we want to save this to a different location. To save a file, such as this link on here, we want to just right-click on this. And of course, I'm using Google Chrome for this. It's very similar in Internet Explorer as well. But when I right-click on this link where it says Quest Travel A, I want to click on Save Link As. And of course, when I click on this, the Save As dialog box is going to open up. Here, I can save this in whatever location I want to have it saved in. Now, for your case, you would probably want to save it into your My Documents or onto your home directory. For my case, I'm going to save it onto the desktop. Now, like I said, for just my case, I'm saving it onto the desktop. For you, I would save it at least into your My Documents, if not into your home directory. And of course, we're going to keep the name the same as Quest Travel A. Once you have this and it's in the folder that you're wanting, just click on Save. And of course, the file will save to your computer. Now you can go ahead and minimize your Google Chrome. And we notice that right here is the file that we have for Quest Travel A. So if I would double click on this right here, we can notice that it's going to open up Access for us. Of course, we see that there's the little opening screen, and then here we'll open up Access. Now, one little thing that we need to do is that whenever we see this little security warning through our assignments, we need to make sure that we enable the content. This will make sure that everything is working for us, because notice that we can't really do a whole lot until we enable this content. And then of course, once we enable it, then we can do everything that we need to do. So ultimately, this covers through steps 1 on there for us and step 2. Now, real briefly, I will show you that if you would just open up Access from your desktop or from your Start button, if you would open up Access, it will look a little bit different. Of course, on here, unlike in other programs, where generally you can go straight into a blank document on there, you have to go in and save your database right off the bat. So you could go right into a blank database, or you can choose one of the templates, as you see, that are appearing around here on there. So that's a little bit of a difference between some other files and Access on there, is that you do have to save your database right off the bat. However, you can take a look over here, and of course here is your recently opened files. Or if you're wanting to open up a specific file, you can click on this Open Other Files, and then of course I can go to my computer and to my desktop where I have my file saved, and then I can open up my Quest Travel A database. Now, as we take a look here, the Quest Travel A database contains 5 tables, and of course we can tell that they're tables because we see that here it's listed out tables. There's customers, sales, states, tour categories, and tours. It also contains 6 queries, which we can see. Here's the queries, and we have customer invoice, customer sales, tour roster, tour sales, tours by category, and tours by state. Now, of course, each of these items, tables, queries, forms, and reports, are different types of objects that is inside of an Access database. And of course, this is displayed over here in what we call the navigation pane. And of course, this is our navigation pane here. And of course, each one of these bolded areas tells us the type of object that it is. And of course, once again, that Access has four main objects: tables, queries, forms, and reports. Now, our tables, you can see, has this little icon right here. And really, the purpose of a table is to contain all of the raw data within the database in a spreadsheet-like view. Now, tables are linked with a common field to create a relational database, which minimizes the redundant data. And we'll show you how to do that a little bit later on. Now, in queries, you'll see the icon right here where it kind of has a couple of, looks like a couple of documents there. And this allows us to select a subset of fields or records from one or more tables, and queries are created when you have a question about the data. Now, forms, which we see the little icon here, has a little purple top to it here. It actually provides us an easy to use data entry screen. And then, of course, finally we have reports down here, which has the green binding there, and it provides us a professional printout of data that can contain elements such as headers, footers, graphics, and calculations on groups of records. So we're going to take a look now at some of the different objects that are here. Now let's take a look on step 3 on page Access 4. And it tells us that in the navigation pane, we want to go to the Tours table here, and we want to double click it. When we double click it, that's going to open up the Tours table. Now the Tours table is opened up, but we also want to open up the Customers table as well. So you want to double click the Customers. And you'll notice here that there are two tabs that's there, and they open up to display all the data that they store. Now, once again, the table is the fundamental building block of a relational database. That's because it stores all of the data. Now, here you can enter or edit the data in the table. Now, of course, if you run into any problem, if the navigation pane does not open, so if you take a look in your navigation pane, it looks like this, and it just says navigation pane. You need to make sure that you click on this open and close button. This is the shutter bar open and close button, and that opens and closes the navigation pane for you so that you are able to see it. Now, in step 4, it tells us that in the navigation pane, we want to double click the Tour Sales query. So let's take a look at a query here. So we take a look at Tour Sales here, and we double click on it, and this shows us what a query looks like here. And of course, also on there, it tells us that we want to double click any occurrence of heritage, and of course, such as in American Heritage Tour. So when we go through here and we take a look on there, we can double click on any occurrence of this, and we can double click. Once we double click on there, we can then type in the word legacy. And of course, once we type that in, we can click any other row, and you notice that we can actually edit data here. So now we notice that we, instead of having the American Heritage Tour, we've changed this all to the American Heritage Tour. That's on there. Now, a query selects a subset of data from one or more tables. Now, in this case, the Tour Sales query selects data from the Tours, Sales, and Customers tables. So really, this looks similar to the other tables, but this is a combination of 3 different tables that's on there. Now, editing data in one object will change that information in every other object of the database. And this really demonstrates the power and productivity of the relational database. So where we change the American Tour, or the American Legacy Tour, instead of the American Heritage Tour, that's now been changed in all of the other information because these tables are all related together. Now if we take a look on step 5. Step 5 tells us that we want to double click the customer roster form on there, and that's going to open it up. So if we go to the customer roster here and we double click on it and open it up, this shows us on here how we can open up a form. And of course we can see how we can quickly update this information. But if we would go through here and we double click where it says tour on there, or you can just select where it says tour and type in the word rally on there, and then click any name in the middle part of the window on here. So we have like customer name, we can click on any name on here. We've now made the change to where instead of the American Legacy Tour, now it's the American Legacy Rally. We go back to our tour cells, take a look at that. It's already been changed over here. So these things are all been tied together. Now of course your access form is the data entry screen. And a lot of users prefer forms for data entry rather than editing and entering data in tables and queries because information can be presented in an easy to use layout. Now finally we're going to take a look down here on the tour sales report. So if we go to tour sales and if we double click on it here, this opens up a report. And of course an access report is a professional printout, and a report is for printing purposes only. You cannot edit or change the information. If you would try to change anything, you notice that you can't on there. So that is one thing that you can't make any changes whatsoever on there. Of course, anytime that we're wanting to close out of any of these objects or anything that's on there, once we have these selected, we can click on the close button in the upper right corner of the window on there, and when we click on that close button, that's going to close access as well as the database in which we're working on. Now of course you'll notice one thing, it didn't ask you to save your changes, and the reason being is that changes to data such as the edits that you just made to the American Legacy Rally Tour are automatically saved as you work. Now access will prompt you to save design changes in objects before it closes. So that concludes the information that's on pages Access 4 and Access 5. When we come back, we're going to reopen up Access, and we're going to create a database. So you're ready to move on to the next video.